Welcome back, everybody. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Aaron.
This is our show, Crypto Cosm, where I talk about how astrology affects the crypto market.
And I talk about that worldly crypto news.
And we've got an eclipse coming up, the biggest eclipse of our lifetimes, the biggest lunar eclipse in 120 years, of the biggest eclipse of the 21st century. It's going to last for 1 hour and 43 minutes.
That's a big eclipse.
Which is, again, the full moon. The lunar eclipse is the full moon eclipses. Now, we had one on January 31st, earlier this year. And
yes, we did.
It brought the market right down.
That was the starting point.
It was the starting point. And usually, we've talked about on the show, these full moons, everything starts to drop. And the new moons is when they start to come up. So the new moon eclipse is going to be on the 11th of August, which is a really good sign of money coming into prosperity. This full moon eclipse on the Friday, the 27th, is not about a good aspect of money. As we're looking, as the trends have seen a big kind of drop. This is the starting of the selling point. And on Wednesday, we have the Mercury retrograde for 3 weeks in Leo.
Retrograde.
Right, which is, again, what happened in Aries is everybody sold off. Everyone kind of had that fear. We talked about it, which way it was going to tip. It tipped in the favor of I don't know about this Bitcoin stuff. Maybe I should just pull out and get mine, and secure me and my assets. And now here we are in midsummer. This eclipse is going to hit us and it's going to hit the market, and we're going to definitely see a bit of a decline here. And with the retrograde happening, it can stir people into a bit of a frenzy. Mercury is a trade, goods, and communication, right? And Mars is also, so Mercury's in Leo. Sun's in Leo, North Node in Leo, Mars in Aquarius, South Node in Aquarius, the Moon Aquarius. That's why the eclipse, it's the Moon and the Sun and the nodes. So, and Mars is retrograde as well. So when we're trying to get things done in technology, the sign of Aquarius, technology and community,
it's an uphill battle. It's
an uphill battle right now.
Yes,
our planet of getting things done is kind of going backwards and in a introspective, let's review.
Thanks a lot, Mars. Thanks a lot.
It happens every 2 years, and it's absolutely necessary. We need to, not just be a bull in a china shop, moving forward, it's just when we just push through, we can neglect things, we can overlook things. And this eclipse is huge about, neglect is a big aspect about it. I just did a regular astrology report. It's all about neglect and commitment. And that's just really shining a light on the shadows of these deep cobwebs of things that we have been overlooking that need to get done. And this is definitely coming into play in the crypto world. What do we need to do to take the next step, to push through, to get us to where we need to get going when the retrograde cycle is over, when motion comes back in full circle. Like this, here's a fun one. If somebody deals with a breakup, you could be sitting next to or meet, the person of your dreams, but you're not in a good space to kind of receive that. You haven't done that inner work, to heal.
That's frustrating.
Right, it is. And I know that's an emotional level, but that's kind of where that's at right now. We have to do this kind of inner work. We have to do this inner work and figure some of these things out before we can appreciate this new currency, this new way of living, this new way of trading, this new social way of making things happen in our new world that we're creating together.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's interesting. We talk about these eclipses, and we have these solar eclipses. We have the lunar eclipses. So full moons, new moons. One, we're dropping the price down. The other, we're kind of realizing where the bottom is, and then we're going back up, which is an interesting fact. So what we did was we took a map of this year. We're going to show that in just a second. And once we do, you'll see both the arrows that are pointing down on this map, or on this chart, are going to be the lunar eclipses.
The solar eclipses.
The solar
three
eclipses.
Down are the solar eclipses.
No, the three up are solar eclipses. The two down are lunar eclipses. There we go. So we're gonna show this right here. So Now, on January 31st, you could see the first arrow that's pointing down. There's actually just the start of the decline that's going and happening.
That's the first lunar eclipse.
That is the first lunar eclipse. Now we see, moving ahead, the first arrow pointing upwards
February
is
15th.
the first solar eclipse. So we're dipping back up. So now we see the very last two, arrow pointing down and arrow pointing up, where we don't have any motion in the actual charts or any pricing yet, as those are for the two eclipses that are coming up.
Right.
So right now we can see we're clearly overbought in terms of the Bollinger Bands and the moving averages shown on this chart, which means individuals are going to start selling off, which really matches up with this lunar eclipse coming up. So we could see this being the start of the price dipping downwards.
Right. After Friday, over the weekend, absolutely.
So this is what we're expecting to see from the trend. Keeping in mind, we are not financial advisors. Please make sure don't invest any money you're not willing to lose. We just want to take a look at these patterns that are actually repeating in nature. So the lunar eclipse may spark us into this downward motion, and you could see the next arrow targeted at the next date where we could see this trend moving back up. Now we have our support lines and our resistance lines set up here also. The big red line running through this chart is going to be that firm support line for us that we've really been keeping strong above $6,400. And there's a bunch of you guys out there that are all praying for, 78, 7,900 in terms of trying to break this next support line and pull into that bull run. But who knows, with these eclipses going on and the past trends, I don't think we're going to break out of this trend line quite yet. I think we have a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, again, we're setting up right now to me what looks like we're hitting really our low, and I think we talked about this a few episodes ago, that this eclipse cycle is going to be our low of the year, and then it's going to be, and we've seen this staircase kind of going down, and it's up and down, up and down, up and down, but it's been on a decrease, from that 19,000 in December to 5, whatever, 6, 7, where we're at right now. So after August 11th, around this time, again, that is looking like it's going to be the bottom of the bottom. And from there, it's going to be 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 4 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, and it's going to be this kind of a bit of a climb. And then fall is going to be this really greater push, which is what looks like it's coming up here. So
as above, so below. So let's just say, for instance, now you said August 11th.
Yes.
Now the big date right now, where there's so much hype around, is August 16th. August 16th, will they approve Bitcoin ETFs? Now the SEC has to wait that 45-day period before they can even attempt to make an answer. So this is the earliest date that they can actually come out and be able to say something and speak against what's going to happen with Bitcoin ETFs. And that's going to be an interesting time frame, because if we're looking at the eclipses, signifying possibly what could be the lowest of our year, and the much anticipated news that everybody is looking at is when Bitcoin ETF.
If I'm doing my math right here in my brain, that's going to be right around the time our moon is going to oppose Uranus. Uranus is that great awakener. It's over there in Taurus right now. So that's going to put the moon Libra over into Scorpio, other people's money. It's going to be an interesting time. So it's going to be tickling that, that creation of let's spark and shake things up, create something bigger.
Tickle it. Tickle it, baby. Tickle it.
More for the pool. That'll be cool. Good date.
So
good date to keep in mind.
I think we're all looking forward to it. And there's some interesting pictures out there floating around on Facebook. So there's some of you may have seen it. They stack the gold chart right above the Bitcoin chart, and they signify right around 2003, 2005 area, when gold ETFs were approved, that gold just goes through the roof, all of a sudden just climbing 2 to 3 times past its previous all-time high 40, 50 years ago. So this was a really interesting picture that I had seen, and I wanted to look into it. And what I found was that it wasn't overnight when gold ETFs were approved that the price jumped 300% from $600 to $1,800. It was not overnight. Actually, it was over the period of close to a decade.
8, 9, 10 years.
Decade. I mean, we're talking years here. Now, we were in a little bit of an upward climb in 2003, and we're going to show it right here. We have what the gold history looks like over the years. And in 2003, 2004, 2005 is really when it started to climb back up. And yes, it did come to a new all-time high right around 1,800, but it was nothing staggering past what it was before. So a lot of these charts floating around don't hold a lot of weight to it. So you really want to do your own research when it comes to these kinds of things. Don't just take anybody's word for it. They can make up any picture and draw any lines in it that they want to. And it really takes some digging of your own always to get to the bottom of it, to see, you know, what the source of it is. Is what they're saying true? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, is it going to take Bitcoin a decade? It's not going to take Bitcoin a decade to do anything. I think whatever happens probably will happen on a faster scale because, I mean, this is crypto. Mm-hmm. You know, a week in crypto, they say, is 6 months in the stock market.
Right, and it's important too, and it's why we love doing this, is like looking at the astrology. In 2003, 2005, Pluto would be in Sagittarius, you know, so it's about, you know, the higher education of things. It's you know, more about information. It's cultivating that information to create something. So that wasn't a time of creation process, that's formulating idea process. 2008 is when Pluto moved into Capricorn. Now we're talking about government, we're talking about money. When was Bitcoin created? 2008. You know, and that's going to be an 18-year cycle until 2024 is when that pops out and finally moves into, you know, the age of Aquarius. So, you know, yeah, high hopes for certain things, or sometimes people want to, you know, push the carriage before the horse. And the astrology is always going to be showing us that the tortoise wins this race, you know, and just looking at what's going on, you know, there's a reason, again, we did that show a while back about The Economist, you know, 1980, 89?
1983?
Something like that, you know.
30 years ago?
Yeah, a 30-year-old article, you know, showing the Bitcoin, showing, you know, or not Bitcoin, but showing this one world money, this coin, the digital currency, the phoenix rising from the ashes. You know, it's just like 30 years ago. That was, you know, that's an astrologer working with finances talking about these times now, and that's just where we're at. We're in this cultivating process. You know, there's a bit of a conversation we had about this earlier as well, was, you know, where are we in the creation of Bitcoin? Or Bitcoin, all right.
Strike that, reverse it.
All right. A fun analogy to look at and where we are in this crypto world is, you know, Walt Disney had the idea to create Disneyland, all right? That was the formulating the idea. And then now we have to build it. Now we have to hire the contractors. We have to, you know, hire whoever's going to create the blueprints down, you know. We have to hire the seamstress, the actors, the actresses, the lighting technicians, the sound, you know, there's a million hands all at that have to be brought involved into this. Just like the crypto world, there's so many different aspects of this giant world. Mm-hmm. And it took one person's idea, Walt Disney, to say, I'm going to create this. And it's like you're building, you know, in the 1970s, you're building what? In the middle of swamp in Florida? You're crazy, you know, and where we're at right now is it's like putting these horse blinders on and not letting anybody tell us of what they think reality is, how crazy they think I am, or my radical ideas, or, you know, the planet, whatever, you know, it's like, no, I know the truth behind it, just like same, you know, Walt knew the truth behind it, but we're at the creation process. So you hired your contractors, we've got all these different coins and tokens and companies that are in the creation process, But when moon, when Lambo. So you want to find out how much you're going to make at the gate, how much you're going to get at the door, how much you're going to get at concessions, how much the profit's going to be. But we don't have a functioning building yet. It's like there's still the model, and Derek Zoolander walks in. How are they going to fit in the building yet? And slaps it away. That's where we're at. We're still building this thing, and we can't look at it and judge it and swat it away. And that's what's going to happen a little bit on this eclipse. People are just going to swat it away and think, oh, it's done, it's dead, it's going in the water. It's sinking into the swamp, your dreamland. But it's not. It's just in the process of being built. And then, take it from there. Let it live.
And so, back to the ETFs. Now, it's an interesting concept. I think there's really more hype than necessary because, back in the early 2000s when we're really cranking up on the ETFs were created because at the time, gold wasn't that easy to obtain, let alone store and protect. So the ETFs were set up as a way to gain ownership, electronic rights over these physical commodities.
I don't like that.
Without actually having to have them in your hand.
And that sounds kind of like what we're trying to get away from, doesn't it?
Now, Bitcoin as a medium of exchange has done a lot to remove the inefficiencies of the trade and barter system. We don't have to, we're not going to come into the situation where you say you have 100,000 Bitcoin, but show us what that's linked to physically. I mean, gold, diamonds, rupee, whatever it is. There's no physical backing towards it. So it's the demand for it that's increasing the price. And if you have the Bitcoins in your wallet, you have the Bitcoins in your wallet. It's not attached to anything, which is a fundamental step in moving forward because we're able to trust it. We're able to trust that, hey, if your Bitcoin wallet says you have 5 Bitcoin in your wallet, you have 5 Bitcoin in your wallet. We can't create more. We can't forge them. We can't, a Bitcoin is a Bitcoin. That's it. So we're trying to remove the inefficiencies from this trade and barter system as we're moving forward. That is always the goal, increasing the efficiency. And, ETFs were a step towards that. But now is an ETF really going to be working like any other ETF? Because to obtain a Bitcoin is to obtain a Bitcoin. It's probably just as easy to do that than it is to obtain an actual ETF. So where's the actual value add, if you will, in having that? Maybe it's the go-ahead from the SEC to say, yes, this is a safe commodity to be able to invest in for IRAs and retirement funds.
Which is good.
Which is good. We need that for cryptocurrency to flourish, to be adopted and accessible more to the mainstream.
I always keep talking about getting more people in the pool. And this is like that, like a nice rubber mat around so we know people aren't going to slip as they're getting in and out. So it's like it's safe. You don't have to worry. You're not going to fall in.
And I think that's what we're seeing. So it's interesting, even if we chop the 10 years down in crypto time, so that would be about, well, let's see, there's 20 weeks. If it holds true, if the crypto time frame, a week is 6 months, maybe it'll only take 20 weeks for that price to increase, 300%, so to speak. Time will tell. Time will tell. But for now, let the hype be hype. Don't get totally overthrown by the news that's out there. Do your own research. Make sure, whatever you're doing is working for you. And don't just get caught up in what everybody else is doing at the same time. Sometimes when everybody's zigging, the best thing to do is zag.
Right. Again, just be that authenticity. That's like, do it. If you believe in it, don't let anybody else talk you out of it. Build your own Disneyland in the middle of the swamp. Create its own value, its own worth, its own concept, and your own community. It's expand bigger than we've ever thought was possible is really what's going on right now. And don't be afraid that if you're getting knocked down a bit, in a little like whack-a-mole thing, like every time I get up and start going, man, I just, bam, the universe knocks me down. And that's another fun thing I'll say about this. For those who like numerology, this eclipse is happening on 444. 444. 444 magic. I know a guy I know a guy that
the
just
number of
always
stability.
takes pictures every time that's 444 555 222, and it just every time like, oh my god. Anyway, but there is a bit of fun about numerology with that, and this is, you know, it says this gateway where like we're on track. It's the universe saying no, like these hiccups, these bumps in the roads, these tangled messes, these karmic entanglements, quantum entanglements, you know, these things that are seem ooey gooey messy, like you know, how was your trip? It was good, but I got stuck in the mud in my shoes and everything. It's like, well, good. That's part of the journey, man. You know, that's part of it. Now clean your shoes up, clean yourself up, and take the experience and go out there and do something with it. You know, yeah, exactly. Learn from it. Tell a story about it. Create, or like, oh, now I realize that we need a bridge there. You know what I mean? So it's like now we can create something with this, which is great. So it's like we're all on track. We're on track. Everything is happening how it's supposed to be. So don't be, you know, deterred. I don't know. Is it a good word for it?
So 4 is also the number of stability. So it's the cat landing on its feet. Really. So as far as I'm concerned, you know, I kind of get a good feeling in terms of where we're going. And, you know, we talked about the Mercury retrograde, which is going on for about 3 weeks. And it's going to be interesting where having this retrograde in terms of technology is that when I match this up and I look at the TA, the transactional analysis, and I'm gonna show the chart one more time that we just showed earlier right here. You know, 3 weeks or so, we could just see a lot of really inconsistency in the market. A lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Yes, no, indifference rather in the market, to really where we get to this point where we're coming down and we're making lower lows and lower highs, and this point where we're stabilizing the market to where we get to this almost like little flatline area right here at the end before we break out is typically what we see, and really realizing what the true value is at the time before we make the next leap. So I would love to see, you know, personally that 3 weeks of retrograde, seeing that indifference in the market and seeing that price really flatline to, you know, what I'm going to assume is right around probably 67.5 or so, before we really break out of this trend one way or another. And it's going to be, I think, depending on a lot of the news and a lot of the hype and how that plays out. But, you know, things are matching up. And this is the same chart that we've been showing for the last 6, 7, 8 weeks now. I mean, we're lining up beautifully. It's going according to plan, and I can't wait to see how these next few weeks follow through.
Right, and it's cool too. So this next eclipse, the August eclipse, excuse me, the follow-up, the new moon eclipse, where things kind of start to its rise, and it's interesting again, like Aaron's saying, the retrograde being 3 weeks. So it's like we still have another month and a half to Leo. You know, Venus went through there, it shot through, it, you know, made that great connection. In Virgo, as soon as it shot through and went to Virgo, it made that great connection, the first eclipse to Saturn. Right? Structure is a positive thing. We started seeing the money coming back up. And this eclipse that's happening on Friday, it's perfect 19 degrees to Pluto. It's making that aspect. And you're talking about like groundedness, 444. We're talking about earth signs too. So Virgo, earth sign, Capricorn, earth sign, Uranus and Taurus, earth signs. So this like breakthrough of this money, breakthrough of government changes is happening right now in these earth signs. But after the eclipse in August, Venus is the very first one to move out of Virgo. So the Sun and Mercury are still stuck. Sun just went in to Leo, right? So we're hot in the middle of summer, the hearth that keeps burning, this fire passionate. Mercury's going through there, and we're going to reevaluating our own personal fire of what keeps us going and what we need to move forward in our lives. But then Venus, again, our money planet, is the first one to hit Libra. And as soon as it hits Libra, it's going to create its second square to Saturn. Okay.
Saturn.
The malefic planet is squeezed. So when it's in Virgo and Taurus or Pisces and Scorpio, these are positive aspects, generally positive aspects.
I always raise an eyebrow when you mention Saturn.
No, but wait, it's the first one. Venus, money planet's first one to hit Libra, creating that square. So it's just like we're going to hit that new moon. We're going to rise, rise, rise. Venus is going to start coming in, creating that. I don't know the date off the top of my head. Please forgive me. I didn't think I was going to be talking that far ahead. We'll talk about, maybe I'll drop it in the notes at the bottom. Of what day that actually is. But, again, that's going to be something where it's going to, that rise and then that little bit of squeeze of tension is going to happen again. So.
Excellent. Well, we're going to keep showing the same chart here, following up, and we're going to track our progress. And so far, I mean, we've been spot on, and in terms of kind of just keeping tabs on where this whole thing is heading. So I'm excited.
Where we need to be, we're on track, baby. 444 magic.
Let's do it. Is it my turn? Is it my turn?
It's always your turn.
I want the bottom one.
Ooh.
I'm dipping into the bottom. True wisdom card of the day. Those who are unaware, they are walking in the darkness. Will never seek the light. So one more time. Those who are unaware, they are walking in the darkness, will never seek the light.
What a perfect card for
Bruce Lee.
Ooh.
Bruce Lee. Like a water. Be like a water, my friends. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for joining us here. Also, the notification button down at the bottom of the screen so you guys don't miss a beat here on
Crypto Cosm.